Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be comparing the ARs in 5.56 versus 9mm. I've done this video before, but today I'm going to talk about it from a slightly different perspective, which I think will be interesting. Before I go any further, let me tell you guys I've set up a new channel called Absolute Guns. I'm going to put a link below so you guys can go there and subscribe. The reason why I set it up is because both the Tsafa channel and the Pocono shooting channel that I have each have 2 strikes on them. Okay, so if I get one more strike, they're going to shut down this channel, delete all the videos. So before that happens, get yourself over there and subscribe. This way you can keep following me. All right. With this 5.56 AR versus 9mm AR, where I'm going to start is I'm going to start with a 7.5 inch barrel. Okay. And the reason why I'm starting with 7.5 inches is because that's kind of where I think that you can start to see where there's like a cost benefit trade-off that starts to favor, I think, the 9mm, because when you're using a 16-inch barrel, I think that it's pretty solid in favor of the 5.56. All right, but when you're getting down to 7.5 inches, I think it favors the 9mm. So let's look at the energy here. So at 7.5 inches, the 5.56 green tip, we're talking about a green tip here, okay, has 640 foot-pounds. Okay, 640 foot-pounds is kind of like a medium 357 or low-end 44 Magnums. Okay, so we're definitely like in handgun territory as far as power, right? We're talking hot 357 or weak 44 Magnum. If you compare that to the 9mm in 7.5 inches, we've got 402 foot-pounds of energy. So 402 foot-pounds of energy is the equivalent of a 40 cal. Okay, so what we're really looking at here is we're looking at a 357 versus a 40 cal in terms of power, I don't think there's that much of a difference. I mean, especially if you're shooting at flesh, the effect is going to be more or less the same. Okay, so let's take a look over here. Here I've got an AR in 7.5 inches, 5.56. Okay, the barrel basically stops here. This section here, from here to here, that's what we call linear comp. Okay, so the reason why there's a linear comp on this is because if you don't have that on there to direct the blast forward, this gun becomes stupid loud. Okay, it becomes basically you got to double up on ear protection, and even if you've got ear protection on, you're not going to shoot 200 rounds in a gun like this because there's still a concussion wave that goes through your body. Okay, and after 200 rounds, you're going to start having a headache. Okay, I know because I do that stuff here. Okay, so this gun in the 5.56 and 7.5 inches becomes unbearably loud, but also there's a tremendous muzzle flash. This gun at night looks like a flamethrower. I've posted videos where I'm shooting this gun. So here's the thing with that tremendous muzzle flash. If you're shooting at your target, okay, every time you go bang, 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 you see a wall of white in front of you, so your target disappears and also your reticle disappears. Okay, so you lose your target, you lose your reticle every time the gun goes bang, bang, bang because of that muzzle flash. Okay, so that's a severe disadvantage to this gun, and that's the main reason why like special forces put suppressors on short-barreled rifles. It's not for the sound reduction, because there's really not that much sound reduction. It's to control the flash, both so that they can't easily be seen in their position, but also so that they don't blind themselves as they're shooting and lose sight of their target, lose sight of their reticle. By comparison, over here I've got a 9mm AR, also in 7.5 inches. Now this also has a linear comp on here. Basically the barrel stops over here. However, the only reason why this is on here is for safety reasons. What I noticed when I was training people with this gun is they would grip the gun here, right, and sometimes their finger would come a little past the rail over here, right, and it kind of made me a little bit nervous because I thought the hand was going to slide in front of the muzzle. So I put this here on as a safety precaution for training new shooters. If I was the only person shooting this gun, I would just take this off and just put a standard bird cage on here. I've shot this gun at night. First of all, there's no difference in the sound, right? It sounds quieter than a pistol in 9mm. You still need ear protection, right? But it's definitely quieter than a pistol with a 4-inch barrel. And there's no muzzle flash, right? There's just like a tiny little spark. I've done videos where I'm shooting this at night. You can see a tiny, tiny little spark, and sometimes you don't even see it. So that's why I think that in 7.5 inches, I think that the 9mm has the advantage because of the noise, and because of the muzzle flash. Now, the one thing I'm going to say with the 7.5 inches, right, is if you see those steel rims that are in the back over there, if I put a steel rim out at 100 yards, the 5.56 out of the 7.5-inch barrel will penetrate the steel rim, right? Whereas the 9mm, even at 30 yards right here, will not penetrate it. It'll just bounce right off it. So if you need to penetrate steel at 100 yards, then yeah, you know, and you have to use a 7.5-inch barrel, then yes, you have to use the 5.56. But if you're not penetrating steel, if you're penetrating if you're only concerned about penetrating flesh, then I think that the trade-off favors the 9mm because you don't have that excess noise, you don't have the excess muzzle flash, and the accuracy is pretty good. I was shooting this one yesterday at with a 7.5-inch barrel. I was getting 3 to 4 inches at 100 yards. Okay. Now I also tested this one out, and I've also tested another 5.56 in 7.5 inches, and the groups are actually closer, like 6 inches at best, and sometimes even larger. At first, I thought maybe I just had a bad barrel on this one, but then I tested somebody else's 7.5-inch gun, and I was also seeing 6+ inches on that. I've ordered a new upper, right? So I got a new barrel coming here. I'm gonna test that out as well. So now I have 3 guns to compare. But as of right now, accuracy favors the 9mm out of the 7.5-inch barrel. Okay. So yeah, I mean, so here's the thing. If you look at the power, right, 640 versus 402, the difference between these two is 238. So I mean, and both of them are basically in handgun power territory. Okay, so my feeling is that if you have to be at 7.5 inches, I think it makes more sense to go with the 9mm AR unless you specifically need to be penetrating steel. Okay. Now let's talk about the 10.5 inches. I got 2 of them there, one in 5.56, one in 9mm. When we go from 7 inches to 10.5 inches, there's a big jump in power, right? You get an extra 290 foot-pounds of energy versus on the 9mm, when you go from 7.5 inches to 10.5 inches, the power increase is only 28 foot-pounds, right? So as so on the 9mm side, as you add more inches to your barrel, you get very small increases. Versus with the 5.56, you get the increases get more significant. Okay, so as you go from 7.5 to 10.5 inches, you've added 290 more foot-pounds of energy. So now you're up to 930 versus on the 9mm side, right? You got 430, right? So that's a difference of 500. So now that's an interesting comparison here, because the difference down here between the 5.56 and the 9mm at 7.5 is 238. But once you go up to 10.5, the difference between these two is now 500. Okay, so there's a significant increase in power. However, you still got that terrible muzzle flash, and you've got that terrible sound, right? The gun, if you look over here, I've got a linear comp on here. This one's from Core Valley. I just ordered another one that I'm going to put on that 7.5-inch barrel that I ordered. That absolutely needs to be on there because this gun becomes just stupid loud. But if you look at this one in 10.5 inches, just a standard bird cage, okay? This one's almost at the point where you can kind of shoot it without earmuffs. it doesn't sting your ears. It doesn't feel good, but it doesn't sting your ears, right? You don't feel that pressure, like boom, you know. You don't feel that pressure if you shoot that gun without earmuffs. It's just not very pleasant. With earmuffs on or just earplugs, you can shoot that gun all day. You can shoot 1,000 rounds really easy. You can't shoot 1,000 rounds with this gun. If you shoot 1,000 rounds with the 5.56 in a day, you're gonna have a headache, right? Because you still got that concussion wave going through your body. It's not just your ears. You know, the noise travels through your entire body. At the 10.5 inches, you know, my feeling is that, you know, I still would rather go with the 9mm because of the noise issue, and also because of the flash. Same thing with this gun. Even though I love this gun, I love the way this gun feels. I love to look at it. I love the look of this gun. But when I shoot this gun at night, every time I pull the trigger, my target disappears and my reticle disappears. Okay, so that is significant. So let's move on now to the 16 inches. With the 16 inches, all right, now you're talking about, you know, as far as the energy, you got 1154 versus on the 9mm side here, 456. All right, so that's a difference of 698. You know, basically 700 foot-pounds of energy. So there is a gigantic difference here in energy. I think it makes all the sense in the world to shoot this gun. Also, the muzzle flash. I've shot this gun at night. I've posted videos. There's no muzzle flash on this. You still need to wear ear protection with this, but there's no muzzle flash even with the standard bird cage. The only reason why I would want to shoot the 9mm in 16 inches is because at 16 inches I can comfortably shoot this without ear protection. Okay, this is pretty comfortable to shoot. This 9mm AR in 16 inches is quieter than if you take a 5.56 and put a suppressor on it. Okay, I've shot 5.56 suppressed. I've shot that. The 9mm AR is much quieter. Okay, so I think that's the only reason why you would want to have a 9mm you know, AR in 16 inches as your primary gun, just, you know, in case the sound is an issue. Now, for me personally, like my home defense setup, the same place where I have my guns, I also have my ear protection. I have my glasses. So if I go to get my gun, I get my glasses on, I get my earmuffs on. I got electronic earmuffs for, you know, all the adults in my house. That's really important. A lot of people, especially if you're shooting indoors, if you don't have earmuffs on, what's happening is, you know, there's a, you know, your brain is being punched every time you go bang bang bang. It's like your brain is being punched. It's basically like a flashbang grenade going off inside of a room, and it stuns you, right? You know, it inhibits your ability to think, and it's definitely a major handicap. So that's why I think that in any home defense situation, you've got to have earmuffs wherever your main guns are. Okay. Also eye protection, right? Because here's the thing: if bullets are hitting sheetrock and you know, and stuff around, you know, around the house, that stuff goes into your eyes. You're blinded. Now you are combat ineffective, basically. So you got to protect your eyes. You got to protect your ears in a self-defense situation. That's just as important as the gun, as far as I'm concerned, right? You got to be able to stay in the fight, and the glasses and the ear protection are going to keep you in the fight. But the other benefit of the 9mm AR is I can shoot these steel targets up close, right? That's about 40 feet away over here. You know, I can shoot steel targets up close with the 9mm. I can't do that with the 5.56 because I'm going to get pieces of metal back in my face. Okay, so that's another benefit of the 9mm. But generally speaking, I would rather have a 16-inch barrel in 5.56. It's just a lot more reliable. If the fight moves from indoors to outdoors, you have a better gun. The other thing is, you know, a lot of people think that the 9mm AR might be a better choice for less over penetration, but the opposite is true. Okay, the 9mm is actually going to penetrate more than the 5.56 in terms of after it goes through multiple barriers. So what do I mean by that? So here's the thing: you see the steel rims in the back over there? Right, if I shoot that with 5.56, even at 200 yards with the 16-inch barrel, the 5.56 is going to penetrate it, versus at, you know, even at 30 yards it won't penetrate it. So it has, the 5.56 has more initial energy and power and penetrating power when it hits something. But what happens after it goes through the barrier? So I did a test. I posted a video here where I took 7 of these barrels, right? You see the holes I got over here. I lined them up in a row, and I put them 15 feet apart. The space between barriers counts. That's really important. Because what happens is, even though this barrel is thin, you could shoot through it with a 22. If you space them 15 feet apart, what happens is when the 5.56 goes through it, right, and it comes out the other side, it starts, anytime the 5.56 touches something, because it's long and slender, and it requires a certain rotation to maintain stability, as soon as it goes through that barrel, it starts tumbling, okay? So then when it goes through the second barrel, which is 15 feet back, it goes in sideways, right? So it goes through that sideways, and then by the time it gets to the third barrel, what I found is that in some cases it didn't penetrate, or if it did penetrate, it went through and the bullet completely broke up and it did not come out the backside of the third barrel, okay? By contrast, when I shot it with the 9mm in the 16-inch barrel, the 9mm got through all 3 barrels. It actually got to the 4th barrel. It went 1 barrel more. So the 9mm went to the 4th barrel, went in. In some cases, it went out. In most of the cases, it went in, hit the back of the barrel, and then fell down. And I was able to recover bullets in the 4th barrel almost intact, okay? Because the bigger, heavier 9mm, 115 grain bullet, because it's bigger, it's more solid, it's more roundish. Basically, it held together better, and I was able to recover it intact. Whereas the 5.56 broke up by the time it got to the third barrel. So as far as penetrating concerns, the 5.56 is the better choice, right? That's gonna be less prone to over penetrating. Because a lot of times when people look at penetration, they just look at the initial impact, not the subsequent impact. So here's the thing. I mean, even 22 will go through 2 layers of sheetrock. Okay. The question is, like, what happens after that? As it's exiting the house. The longer, slender bullets that are more dependent on that rotation, as they come out, they destabilize. And they tend to tumble into the ground. They're usually in the ground within 100 yards or less, okay? Whereas the 9mm, because it's more solid, more compact, heavier, it maintains more of that momentum, goes further, okay? So those are my thoughts on this. I think it's a clear choice. In 16 inches, the 5.56 is the better choice, unless your overriding concern is sound, okay? If you know that you're not going to have access to ear protection, maybe you might want to use the 9mm, but that's the only reason why I would use the 9mm AR in a home defense situation. But and if I had to use the shorter guns, right? If I had to use the 10-inch, I think I would definitely want to go with the 9mm, right? Mainly because of the noise and because of the flash. Now, one of the benefits of the shorter barrels is that it is a lot easier to control one-handed. The shorter barrels, the 7.5 inches and the 10.5 inches, these guys over here, they weigh about 6.5 pounds with the optic. Obviously, there's no magazine in it, so about 6.5 pounds with the optic. These guys here, the 16-inch barrels, they weigh about 7.5 pounds, so they're like a pound heavier. But it's not just a question of the weight; it's the fact that the weight is further out. So if you're holding this gun one-handed and you're trying to hold somebody back, keep your kids back or something, this gun becomes a little, just because it's further out, it becomes a little harder to control. So that might be a reason why you may want to go, let's say, with a shorter barrel, because this one over here, the barrel is a little shorter, the weight is closer to your body. This is a lot easier to handle. If you need to do, to do stuff with your other hand. Now, obviously, you can drop this in a sling, but for whatever reason, let's say you need to hold this in your hand, this is a lot easier to handle one-handed. So, so you might have a situation where, hey, you need to use 7.5 inches or 10.5 inches, and in those cases, my feeling is I would rather go with the 9mm. But clearly, if I have to go 16 inches, I'm definitely going to go with the 5.56. So they're my thoughts on that. If you disagree, that's fine. Drop some opinions below in the comments. I'd love to hear different ideas from you guys. If you're not a member of the channel, subscribe. And like I said at the beginning of the video, follow the link below to the other channel I set up, Absolute Guns. Go over there, get yourself subscribed so that we can stay in touch. Because YouTube is coming after me, okay? Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you all soon.